the most contested portion and parcel of planet Earth. And you say, where are those 20 acres? In the city of Jerusalem. It's the Temple Mount in the city of Jerusalem, the most contested part of planet Earth. I was looking at a book recently. It was on I think it was on the 7th of June, 1967. And you will be aware that that was one of the days of the Six-Day War. And the nation of Israel took the mount. They took the Temple Mount inside those 6 days. I'm always intrigued as I look at the photograph of those Israeli defense soldiers as they started to climb up the Temple Mount. And the news came through from Moshe Dayan, and Moshe Dayan acknowledged, and he said to the Prime Minister, he says, we have taken East Jerusalem. The next communication that came through was this: we have taken the Temple Mount. And Rabbi Goren was there. Some of you will have seen the photographs. Rabbi Goren was standing, and he had the ram's horn. He had the ram's horn in one hand. He had the Torah on the other hand. And he was saying to the soldiers, go, go, destroy the Mosque of Omer. Of course, they didn't do that. But the great communication was this: we have taken the mount. We're in East Jerusalem. We have united the city. And you say, what are you going to preach from this? Well, there's quite a few things that we could preach. I'm not going to do it. We could preach about the city in Melchizedek's day. We could preach about the city in the days of the monarchy. We could preach about the city in modern days. I'm going to take 3 things tonight in the 20 minutes or 21 minutes that remain. I'm going to preach about the city of Jerusalem, the city of the Lord in the time of Messiah. Then I want to speak to you about the city of the Lord in the time of the man of sin. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is the city of the Lord in the time of the millennial kingdom. Because you see, Isaiah 60, the nations are coming, and they're moving up, and they're coming to Jerusalem, and the gates are open. We read that in Isaiah chapter 60. The gates will not be shut. And the nations of the world are making their way, and the communication is being uttered all across the world. Jerusalem is the central point, the millennial kingdom. And you say, what has that got to do with us? Well, that's a good question. I'm actually going to show you that some of the things in the millennial kingdom and what they will do in that day is what sinners do now. But you have to wait for that. As the dear man used to say, that's the rest of the story. But we have to get the first of the story. Well, you say, the city of the Lord in the time of the Messiah. I want to speak first of all about the greatest travesty that ever happened on planet Earth. If I was asking you, what was the greatest travesty, the greatest miscarriage of justice that ever happened on planet Earth, I wonder what you would tell me. Well, you say it had been done. There have been people, and they have suffered on planet Earth. They have been misdirected. They have suffered for things that they never did. Many of those dear people. Let me assure you that I know that. But let me also tell you that the greatest travesty that ever happened on planet Earth took place in or just outside the city of Jerusalem. And you say, what happened? It was just outside the city of Jerusalem that those words that we have heard about tonight from 1 Peter, that's where they transpired. Is it any wonder that Peter writes, who his own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree? As I'm preaching to this audience tonight, I would say to this audience, the greatest miscarriage of justice that ever took place was in the city of Jerusalem. He stood. It must have been quite a thing as he stood in all of his sinlessness, in all of his spotlessness, in all of his purity. And Pilate looked at him, and Pilate knew there's no fault in this man. In fact, that's what Pilate said. Behold, I bring him forth, and no fault in him. And he stood there that day, and he's crowned with thorns. You've already heard that from my brother Andrew tonight. Crowned with thorns. Full many a king a golden crown is worn, but only one a diadem of thorn. Full many a king has sat on jewel throne, but only one hung on a cross alone, through garlanded bright streets, cheered by the crowd, great kings have ridden, one with his head bowed, to bear the burden of his cross passed on, to die on Calvary, this king but one. All other kingdoms pass, these are passing now, save his, who wore the bramble on his brow. Mind you, folks, they said, away with him. They said, crucify him. And when the announcement was given by Pilate, take ye him and crucify him, I find no fault in him. It was the greatest travesty of justice that this world